Good morning everybody, I'm back. It's a lovely rainy, quite cool day here and perfect for indoor activities. I have a desire to make some refillable art journals, and we have harvested a lot of books, so here's what they look like when we've been using all the pages. And we keep the covers that look like they'll be useful for something else. So here's one, and here's one that I've actually started to prepare for making a refillable art book. I've glued some fabric in and put some eyelets in, so it's Midori-style. It'll have a central elastic closure, and I'll have some elastic binding here to hold my signatures in. So yesterday I had my first ever experience of joining a nature journaling circle, and it made me think, oh yes, so one of the problems with this one, I realised, having made the cover, and I really like this cover and I'm very happy with that. However, if we just take a look, I mean, I know the pages don't have to fit the cover exactly, but if we just take a look at an A4, which is, you know, the standard size of everything, it's a lot smaller than this. So I think I've come up with a solution, and we'll get into that in a moment, but first I thought I'd just show you how I do. I mean, it's not rocket science, you can probably figure it out, but I found this and I thought this would be nice to use for my nature journaling adventures. And first, I need to glue some fabric in and let that dry before I add the eyelets. So we'll just trim this. Trim. We'll rip is what we'll do. Rip this to the right size to cover the spine area. This one doesn't have particularly interesting inside papers like the others did, so I might add some end papers here and maybe even some pockets to hold things, but I'll do all of that after this is dried. So first of all, let's just get this attached. This is a acetone based glue that's readily available here in Australia, and it's great. We love it. It works. Oh, it can be a bit hard for. Wow, quite hard to get out this morning. What's going on? There we go. Because I tend to make a big mess with glue, I like to do one side first, and then I'm much less likely to mess it up if I'm only trying to line one side up at a time. Get that nicely attached there. I'm never sure whether to actually glue into the spine or not. So what I tend to do is I add a bit of glue and I press it, but not too firmly. Hedge my bets. It's going to be held in with the eyelets, of course. So that's going to keep things secure. Probably haven't gone quite far enough here. Doesn't really matter if I'm going to use end papers, but I might as well tack it down anyway. So there we go. Now that can dry, and this will be a much better size, although I'll be losing a bit. what I really need to do is hunt for a book that fits an A4 exactly. Anyway, here's the solution I've come up with, I think, for this big one. Now this one, I really liked these papers, so I'm just leaving it like this, and we'll see how well that holds, but so far so good. When I was pondering whether to rip up A3 papers, which I was loath to do, because then you end up with all these silly little offcuts, I was looking on my shelf, oops, and I came upon this. Now this was back in the days when I was quilting, and these were leftover squares from something, and I had a go at making a journal. And for the life of me, I can't tell you how I did this. That's how long ago it was. Mind you, that could have been last week, the way I'm going with my memory. But look, 2003, and I didn't stitch it very well, so it's all a bit loose. And what's interesting is I appear to have put in all these pieces of card. I guess that's because I wanted to be able to tip things in. So it was a journal. I went from 2003 to 2004 to 2008. 2015, not a very regular journaler, but I started to work out what I preferred to do. And oh look, 2021. And I didn't really like working in this journal. I'd put so many different papers in here. There's watercolour paper, there's parchment paper from my calligraphy days. I had a few stamp pads back in 2003, and this was one of the ways I decorated, was smearing it. Black cartridge. Oh my goodness. Okay, there's all sorts of things in here. But you know, I don't use it, and while I'm quite impressed with this, I don't need to keep it. But these papers are going to fit quite nicely in this journal. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to cut apart one of my own books. And what I should have grabbed was a smaller pair of scissors, but here goes nothing. Let's see what happens if we... I could reverse engineer how it was made, or just chomp into it. It's funny, isn't it? A labour of love from many years ago is now fodder. Fodder for the future, for the present. Oh, probably should have done that in here. Come on, how are you all attached? It's a very thorough bit of binding. I wish I had the nail scissors, but I don't. Ooh. Okay, now because it doesn't matter that these are perforated, I'm not going to be sewing them. They are still going to need a little bit of trimming, but not too much, and I'll be able to hold them in, or I might be able to just have it. Let's see. Let's see if I can pull a group out. Some will fit better than others. I'm not sure about those black papers. There we go, look. So that's one signature is only 4 papers. Oh look, it's a concertina and stitched onto these back boards. Okay, well I will fast forward through this because this is going to take a while. Okay, look at that. Interesting. I wonder, I love this paper. Probably find another use for these boards, but not today. That can go back there. Now, a lot of these, a lot of these have been thoroughly used, and so I really like that. So I think I'll keep this early, the signature that had the most in it, which was the first one. I think I'll keep that together, and I might machine that, because that's some, oh, might have gone over. Anyway, I'll keep those together as a record of that time. Now, from what's left here, we have quite a few black ones. I think I'll black, watercolour, cartridge, parchment, and cartridge. Now that's had things, too many things done to it. I think the parchment paper will take, yeah, I can sketch into that. I think the parchment paper will take pencil well, and probably biro. So from these, this is the what was I thinking, but actually what I wasn't thinking. I loved bright colours. I still do. Oh. And I didn't have many options with stamp pads back then. Believe it or not, they were quite hard to get. We're pre-access, easy access to online shopping. Remember those days? When you just had to make do with what you had. So this is all probably pretty poor quality paper, which is fine for my purposes. I just want to play with sketching and notice what's going on around me, especially in the garden. So there we go. I don't think I'll use the black, but I do think that these will come in handy. So I've got 4 sheets of watercolour, so I'm going to have 2 signatures in here. I'll have 2 watercolours, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3 of those, and 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so that'll be a pretty nice group of signatures. Now I think group of pages on each signature. I think I will have to trim them a bit, because with the elastic through here, it's going to really damage that. So in fact, and here's a good thing to remember, actually, when I was looking at that, that A4 sheet, look, because you really want to fit it in between your eyelets. You don't want it, well, I don't want it to get damaged. So in fact, this one is really, I think I probably need to trim to at least there. And so that means, yeah, it's not actually very far off here. I don't mind if it's longer on this side, because Oh, although with that elastic closure that would get damaged. So maybe I do mind. Pardon me. All right, so that means I'll have to trim that to there. Okay, I'm off to do some trimming and I'll be back. And here's what they all look like trimmed down. Oh, that's my A4. And a lovely load of scraps. Again, it's just the one constant, isn't it, in making journals? The endless accumulation of scraps. Now, watercolour, watercolour. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's build our signatures.
Right there, there's a cartridge, watercolour, parchment. I think there might be some gessoing going on here. Might be a little bit too much colour on some of these for my liking, but as we know, it'll actually, even if I gesso on that, I'll be able to watercolour on it. So really, I could do gessoing on the cartridge to make that take watercolour better. Ooh, that might be interesting. Okay, there's one signature, I think. I probably have trimmed it a little bit more, but I'm not going to. Okay, number 1. Number 2.
Many years ago I bought myself a traveller's notebook in that, you know, the format that's sort of long and narrow, because I love the idea of this refillable elasticized closure. But what I discovered is I do not like working in such a little cramped space. I don't mind it if it's, I suppose you could open it that way. Anyway, they're still too small for my liking. I like having a bit more room. I need to have a bit more room. So I'm hoping that this style, yikes, get off, will work a lot better for me. Being nice and big. And of course you can pull them out while you're working if you need more surface area to work on. Okay, got my signatures. Now all I need is some elastic. And I think I'm going to go with this black, which is a good deal thicker. And what do I want to do? I think I want to start it from the inside. They look like that, don't they? The ones you buy just have that neat little thing there, because you actually want the strings to be on the inside for your papers. So there we go. I know what I'm doing. Okay, and then that's going to be tied off in a knot. Not too tight, not too loose, but just right. Won't tighten that too much just in case. Alrighty, let's see how accurate my measuring was. Oh, look at that, perfect. So you can kind of go to about halfway into your eyelet without any problem. Good to know. Now the really nice thing about this, of course, is because I want to gesso some of these, I won't have to do it in my book. I'll be able to pull those pieces out and look at that, instant art journal. Now we'll make a closure in case we want one. So I suppose that just has to go around like this with enough room for a knot and a bit of give. And then I think. There we go. I think I can just poke that through there. Probably should have done this first, never mind. Have I done it right? We'll see. Okay, so that goes there. Oh, look at that. Done. Art journal ready to use. Oh, that's exciting. Save your beautiful covers. Make yourself an art journal. I look forward to filling that little Edith Holden one. I think that's going to become my new nature journaling one. I'm not sure what this might just be experimental. And what I can do actually, look at how these how well or not these papers work. Pardon the very loud background. Okay, I know the watercolour papers work, but I wonder how the cartridge and the parchment might work with watercolour. Possibly not very well, but here goes nothing. What happens if we paint on these? Well, they might take a light wash. That's exciting. So we might be able to... There we go. There's an owl. Oh, look. They have a bit of resistance. But I kind of like that. All right. So the parchment paper is going to work. What about the cartridge? Again, it'll probably work okay with a light wash, not too much fiddling around. Oh, you know what I've just realised? One of the things I've been loving using in my journals is little swatch sheets. Just using what's left over in the palette, really, and mixing all these muddy bits that you never know quite what to do with. And look at that, I'll be able to actually use all these little scraps and all my palette mud. And then you get this nice toned bit of stuff. And who knew that parchment paper was also going to be able to take this. Might need a bit more colouring, a bit more pigment. And it would be easier with a better brush. This is a very cheap and nasty little brush. But still, that's fun. I am going to just have a happy time now making up some swatches. I suppose I could test how well this watercolour paper works too, couldn't I? See you next time.